All right, we'll start now. What's going on, guys? Thank you for coming to another segment of Chemist. And today we're going to talk about something Astrocat excels at, and that's finding gems. As you guys can see from his bio, he is quite a gem hunter, and he's been in the game for a couple of years. And he was actually referred to me by Holder of the Fire, Michael, good friend of the show and an absolute beast. I want to thank you guys for taking the time out of your day to join us here for the Because Bitcoin Twitter Spaces. And I want to thank you, Astrocat, for joining us and being welcome to the community, bro. So first and
Sure
foremost,
thing.
how are you doing today, brother?
Yeah, it's a pleasure. How's everyone doing? Getting over a little bit of a cold, but happy to be here regardless.
Well, thanks for joining us, man. So, I guess we can get started. I guess we can get started on the
Yeah, sure
show.
thing.
Yeah, man. So, brother, what brought you into crypto, and like, how was that process like, where you started your gem hunting journey and all that stuff, man? I can tell you a little bit about myself. Got into the industry in December of 2017, and of course, got wrecked in 2018. And throughout that process, I was doing some research on some things that might pop off over the next few years. And I came across the Phantom and the Cosmos white paper, and I got really bullish on that. And my thesis was anything that's built on Cosmos is going to do good, right? And anything that's going to be like multi-chain would excel. And Phantom to me seemed like a good project, but it was kind of branded like as a supply chain sort of stuff. But I was still bullish on it regardless. And usually for me, like what dictates a 100x, like a quote unquote 100x gem is first off the community and also their product fit. What are they going to have? And also, like, what sector are they going to be in, right? Do they want to bridge to ETH? Do they want to be their own chain? Do they want to bring a new touch onto the market, right? So with 2018, Vitalik really started talking about ETH staking and things like decentralized finance, and the 0x protocol was talking about having their own decentralized exchange. And I thought, wow, so anything DeFi is going to kick off, right? And that was
Yeah,
already the term. And same thing with layer ones. And throughout 2018, there was also things like the Solana white paper, the Avalanche white paper, Terra. All those things existed, man. Even though, like, people seem to forget, but like, these projects that outperformed in 2020 and 2021, and that first quarter or so in 2022, these are all projects that were incubated along that same time. So, and that to me symbolizes something that could potentially bring in a lot of value to holders, right? And the product that that ecosystem gives off, right? And yeah, I'll stop rambling now and give it on to you, man. But that's kind of like my little thesis there, as far as like how I came across my first few gems. So would like to know your take on it, bro.
sure. Yeah, that definitely resonates a lot with me. I got in also around heavily. I've been investing since I was about 10 years old. Got in very early from my grandpa. So finance has been heavily in my family ever since. And even in high school, I was pulling 10x's, double digit 10x's in stocks. And I was like, oh my God, this is it. Then when 2017 and when I really started getting into crypto and really getting into the meaning behind it and not just looking for a place to make money, but the real ethos behind it, bringing power back to the people, leveling the playing field, everything really resonated with me. And you know it's something where you know everyone wants to kind of look at you gotta look way beyond the easy things, where everyone's sitting in things like just Bitcoin, Ethereum, not looking much past the top 10. But when you really look at the problem, is a lot of that started with things like Nano, when it was called Ryblocks. And you realize that the scalability of this blockchain is like, it seems like a really big problem. And it definitely led to a big revelation into my ability to find projects that were solving, specific use cases. And what you hit on heavily the focus on decentralized finance and bringing power back to the people. That was one of the biggest movements of the whole DeFi summer, and catching that with Ren and synthetics and Chainlink, and I was pretty much in all of those from the beginning. And uh, it's pretty much it's essential to have a really good framework to be able to. I come from a background of marketing, specifically marketing for like the biggest festivals, biggest artists. I did a campaign for Snoop Dogg for the Super Bowl. It's pretty much being able to curate, being able to uh, spot things early. So I helped a lot of artists that were very early stage and help them market and help them grow. So I've been very growth focused in my career. Then I turned that into crypto, and it's about seeing things. One second, seeing things that are clearly undervalued, and you see that clear asymmetric bets where you can turn little bits amount of money into a lot. And my own successes have been amazing, but what I've been able to do for others, working on minimum wage during COVID, has been the real eye opener. And this is something where I've seen all this incredible success from crypto. What I've been able to do for others who pretty much, and I applaud everyone here who is really actually trying to help themselves, because the majority of people that endlessly reach out to me, they don't get past the first step. So 90, almost all of it is just being able to actually put in the effort, actually betting on yourself. And that's a really important thing. So even from the beginning, everyone pretty much just laughed at me. Internet money, all at the joke, all my music career, all the businesses I started. I never really had many people believe in me. So finding that within was pretty important. And being able to see what I was able to do for others, that's when it really clicked. When I saw people when COVID hit, they're in extremely dead areas, minimum wage, debt to their shoulders, and they were able to become millionaires in just a year, just by following my moves. Not as a financial advisor, just posting my moves in groups, and people would follow everything that I would be doing. And then when I realized the change that I could help and happen for others, it's become literally one of my greatest missions as someone who's basically retired. But I spend the majority of my time helping as many people as I can, even executives of major companies, just following my moves. I just sit on Zoom calls, helping people learn how to literally. One second, someone's at my door.
All right. Well, so while Astro's taking care of that, Dow Chemist, what's going on, bro? What are some things that you look at when you're on the hunt for gems and things of that nature, brother?
Hey, how's everybody doing? By the way, great intros, man. Love everything you guys were saying. Astro, man, I just started following you because I need those 100x as well. Can never get too much of those. And King as well, man. I joined around the same time as you, man. Late 2017 that a coworker, I'm a developer, iOS guy. We work here in an application in Los Angeles for hospital, and this guy had two screen, and every time we drove by his cubicle, one screen would be on the Bitcoin chart and the other one on Ethereum. It's like, dude, do you ever work? And he was like, nah, dude, man, I'm about to retire, man. Fuck all that. So I learned from him very quickly. And at the time, Bitcoin was going up, everything was going up. So I picked it up. And especially coming from the engineering side, I felt like I had an edge because I could actually go on Discord, on GitHub, and really get what the code is about, talk to engineers, really deep dive into whether this technology is real or not. So I kind of deep dive into it myself. And then 2018, I joined a DAO protocol. I was the first job. Wasn't an engineer, I was more of a evangelist. And I did that for the following 2 years for different protocols. An evangelist is just basically you take the protocol and you talk to developers and tell them the benefits, and hopefully they use it for their projects, the apps, dApps, things like that. So I did that for a couple of projects in DeFi, alternative layer ones, and during the time as well I was investing. And I've got lucky. I got early, so I've definitely made a lot. Over the years, my 2 cents when it comes to investment is the fundamentals, right? Like look at the team, look at the code, look at the value proposition. If I had to reverse engineer and think what people usually miss, in my opinion, right? It's part of market fit. A lot of project will tell you about the promise, about what they will do in the future, and they may or may not do it, right? But there's no way to know. What usually works is what works today, right? Are they solving a problem that a lot of people in the space, a lot of protocols or projects or investors are running into, and are they the best? Are they the best solution to provide that? And that usually translates to them having a service that people actually want to pay for. It can be a niche service; it doesn't have to be big, right? As Trevor was saying, it's your return is usually greater when you look at smaller projects. Obviously, they're more volatile, more risky, but that's where you get the 10, the 100x, right? So, in my opinion, that's what most people are missing, right? Like people do the research, they read, they take the time to actually listen to space like this and talk to the community. I would say what I've noticed a lot is people don't think about, is it something that people will need tomorrow? Is it really needed? Or does it just sound like a cool new thing that's more efficient? I'll give you an example, right? Just to finish on that, right? I'm big on options. I think options are going to be very massive in DeFi, for example. But for now, there's not that much of demand for options. So you can make the case that, well, obviously in TradFi, options are massive. So whichever protocol, will be able to express options will dominate the market, will do a 50x or 100x. But as of right now, outside of market makers, there's not really a genuine demand for options. So you can hope that tomorrow your favorite option protocol will succeed, but you just don't know, right? So for now, as far as I can tell, you can't find a project that has really reached that product market fit in the option market. So it's just that little difference between what we hope for, what should happen, versus what actually is needed today, right now.
It's pretty good advice, man. I was gonna ask, what's like just to start off, like what's some red flags you look for in like code and like because I'm gonna be honest, like I can tell when a contract's like not optimized right or something like that, but like I don't really know what to look for as far as like red flags and like code or like the back end stuff. So like what's something that's like if it's something that a project is doing, it's no bueno.
Yeah, that's a great question. I will answer two ways, right? If you're an engineer or you actually don't mind taking the time to look at GitHub, a quick way to figure out if the project is actually like doing things the right way is around their pull request. So if you go on GitHub, right, you look at the repo, you look at the most popular, the one that's the most active, probably like the top one on the listings, and then when you click on that repo, you'll be able to see the changes, and those are called pull requests. Basically, like little pieces of code that an engineer is proposing to merge into the code base, right? And if you just look at maybe like 4 or 5 of them, you'll see if the engineer is having conversations. You'll see if it's just like a pull request, someone accepts it, and there's no feedback, or they're actually having conversation. The fact that they're having conversation means that they're actually thinking, talking to each other, figuring out if this is the right way to fix it, to find a solution, right? So that's if like you really want to deep dive into it. If you don't want to take that time, that's fine. Not everybody's an engineer, right? You can't. Not everybody can do great things. I suck at trading, for example, so I'm just a hodler. But if you don't want to get too technical, but you want to find out if they're actually doing the right thing, just look at the audits, right? Are they actually going through the process of every time they push major changes, they actually like release an audit that goes with it. If they don't, then it's just like a one-off because hey, that's the best practice, but it's more like a check box, that they're checking as opposed to actually following some kind of security protocol and phases on security. That's not a red flag, but I would be concerned because hackers are really good these days, and they will find flaws. So the audit is not necessarily going to protect you from getting hacked, but it shows that the project is actually making the effort to follow best practices, and so they reduce the risk of getting hacked.
Sweet, man. That's good advice. Yeah, just to follow up that question, like, what do you look for in the? I mean, you say the team, like, if they communicate, obviously that's good, but like, how can you tell that they're like? I mean, I can tell like anecdotally, not from a technical perspective, if they're like qualified and if they're quote unquote bullish, but like, what's some things that you look for in a team where you're like, oh, that's really cool, like they know what they're doing, like is it just levels of experience um in code, or is it like communication within the team, or is it like marketing? Like, what do you look for?
Yeah, Astro, you want to go ahead? I'll answer afterwards. Nope. Okay. Yeah. So for me,
Wait, what's up?
I felt Astro wanted to say something, and so his mic
Oh,
going off.
okay.
But
Oh, it's just essential, that just working even small projects, under even I'd seen under 1 million market cap or working with really big auditors, just professional auditors. So I mean it's going to be impossible for almost anyone to truly, without a technical background to be able to, there's simple things to look for, of course. But just working with professional auditors is like an essential.
yeah, I agree with that. It's really hard now, and it's super expensive. You can get an audit for like probably $5,000, but they don't have a reputation. They don't have a good track record, and the really good ones, they're always busy. They're gonna tell you, "Hey, we can only do it in 3 or 4 months from now," and it's super expensive. I've heard like numbers that like $50,000 or even more. So it's not necessarily like easily available, especially for smaller projects. So, but at least if they show you that they actually try to focus on security, that's a good sign. And then to your point about the communication, specifically when it comes to coding, if you look at a pull request and you see that it's different people pushing the request and then different people verifying that request, right? And then as the engineer, you kind of know that there's a sufficient solution, a solution that just works, and then there's like an optimal solution, right? There's like, hey, you're thinking about best practice, the comments, the optimization of the gas, for example, right? If you can start to read that in the pull request, that lets you know they really care about the code and they want to make it as efficient as possible, and then you can extend it to the rest of the team, as saying when it comes to marketing, are they actually engaging the community to help out with the marketing? So I think that there's a vibe, right, that you get from a team, and especially in the case of Astro, like if you've been looking at teams for the past 4 or 5 years, you almost get an instinct of like which teams actually like thoroughly do every single thing like as best as they can, and which team is just trying to just check the box and say, hey, we did what we're supposed to do, but they don't really care that much.
Guys, and I want to entertain a situation, right? So today, there's all this panic about, all exchanges are going to take out staking derivatives, but the thing is, we already have things like Lido and other liquid staking derivative protocols that are gonna facilitate the use of these services, right? And you also have things like Oval Network as well that are going to come out within the next few years. And I think people are tripping, and I simply think that like the SEC is just going to choose their winners. It's nothing personal. That's what they've always done. Just look at the .com bubble, dude. They chose a couple of companies that they wanted to push, and I think the same exact thing is going to happen when it comes to exchanges. I don't think anything's going to happen to KuCoin. I don't think anything's going to happen to
I don't know
Nextseed
about all
either.
that. Can't
they're
even
they're
use
they're they're a
DYDX in
roach, dude.
America, bro. You
Stay
think
out of
they're
the
gonna
way
let
for it
KuCoin
now.
be safe?
Yeah, I think so, dude. They're in Singapore,
Wasn't
man. There's a
Hash
lot
saying
of
that they asked him to KYC or some shit, or David? I swear one of them was saying that KuCoin recently asked them to KYC.
yeah, but that's
Coinbase
fine,
is
dude. I don't
too.
care
Like,
what.
oh my, I don't know if you've used Coinbase recently, but they
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
yeah.
Updated KYC. I know.
Yeah, the
Um,
coin is down. Coinbase, I think, is down by 14%. So people are speculating that it's going to apply to them as well. But all the liquidity staking derivatives, like Lido, Rocket Pool, they're up. So the decentralized alternative to no staking on centralized exchanges, those are up.
Yeah, I can honestly I can honestly say that right now we're all in the trenches. This is probably the stage of the market where you're in the trenches. Like straight trenches, dude. Like we're probably like I think we're like the third inning of the trenches going into the fourth one. I think the first trenches was when we found those NFT ETFs on KuCoin, and like they popped off like 300%, and I was bugging out of my mind. And like I was looking at the rotation, right? So at first it went to AI, and then it went to meme coins, and then of course like a lot of Ethereum L2 stuff, and then NFTs were just raging around that time versus ETH. And I was looking at this dislocation, right, in some of the prices for the NFT ETFs, and like, dude, some of these things were just straight ripping, and I'm like, you know what? Let's look at the blue chips, right? So you can see mutant apes, you can see the bored apes, you can see the fidenzas,
The
you can
penguins,
see,
all the big
yeah, yeah,
ones. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna play the blue chips, right? The blue chips. Those are the safest ones because these NFT ETFs, they don't really have that much liquidity. So like a whale can just come in and just rocket the price. And like I remember going on Kaleo Space like last week, and like he had no idea that that market even existed. I think you're gonna reach to a point where like if you're
It's
able
pretty
to buy,
cool because if you
yeah,
can't
yeah,
afford a 7 ETH pudgy penguin, but you have conviction in the team, then you can at least get exposure to the floor price.
yeah, and I think that's a market that's going to catch a narrative, especially as NFTs open up their sectors. Like, oh, if you have this NFT, you get access to this yield farm. If you have access to that yield farm, you earn XYZ token. XYZ token allows you to go into this Discord where these devs are in. They have voice chats like every other week or something exclusive, right? And I think that's a way that NFTs can offer a way, um, to get away from like, oh, sign up to this group. Oh, you need your credit card. Instead of that, like, just have the NFT and prove that you own it. Send a little gas transaction, and that's it. And I know it seems like pretty
I
far
also like
out.
that concept because the market deems how much your group is worth. Like if you're making shit calls, then like no one's gonna buy your alpha pass. But like if you're pretty consistent, then like the floor is probably gonna be high on your pass. I just think it's kind of cool. It's a neat
Yeah, yeah,
concept.
man. I agree, man. So, Astro, what are some narratives that you're looking at for the next 2 to 3 years?
Yeah, I'll definitely get into the biggest one for sure. But I do think it's important that everyone does not feel they need to chase every narrative. You need to really focus in on like what is, where is your real focus and where do you really excel and where's where are you going to get the most growth potential. I personally don't really even buy NFTs. It's kind of out of my scope. So just listening to it, I think it's amazing for everyone, but I just stick to what I'm good at. But one of the biggest narratives, if you just look at this last year, is just the implosions of almost everything is just some centralized implosion. FTX, and it's just even just talking about the staking issues of centralized problems and looking for DeFi. So looking at a way, and one of the biggest projects that I'm most bullish on is Change Finance. It's a liquidity aggregating DEX of over $70 billion, and they're able to they're pretty much trying to bring being able to buy any coin to any coin all in one app. So pretty
I'm so
much
sorry to interrupt, bro. What's it called? I missed it.
it's called Change Finance. This is the same founder as
Change finance word.
uh Quantum and VeChain, if anyone knows it.
Yeah,
That
of
around
course. Yeah, yeah. Like
yeah,
the
it
Everyone
was
hits
around
on it.
this is at around like a 30 million market cap. I think this one's going to the billions. I think it's completely undervalued. They're aggregating. They can even do trades that are with less slippage than Binance. What they're doing is truly incredible. They can split up transactions across different decentralized exchanges to get the lowest price pretty much literally anywhere, because they can split up the trade not only between dexes, but also between different chains. So by being able to do that, they're able to uh, offer the lowest price and be able to provide the liquidity to be able to buy any coin. So one of the most amazing things, though, is that if you look at their app and you can have USDT on 10 chains, you can turn on with one transaction, you could turn all of that into an Ethereum at literally almost no cost in a matter of moments. You can literally, it's so one of the biggest narratives I've been going after for since 2017 is interoperability. You know, the future is multi-chain. I don't really care what anyone says. I believe the future is forever going to be multi-chain. So I think the one who solves uh, this problem of, you know, all these different chains and being all these bridges and this and that, and bridges have so many inherent risks. So being able to solve interoperability, I think, is going to be one of the best investments of our lifetime. And I've been chasing it with Aeon and, you know, Quant, but that's not even really truly crypto. And I've been chasing it with a lot of different projects, but Change Finance has really been the best solution I've been able to find yet, and I think it's going to be one of the best investments coming ahead in this next run.
And real quick, when you say you can aggregate from all the different chains and decentralized exchanges, I think I also heard like you can also get it from sexes as well, like centralized exchanges,
Not
or
sexes. It's not sexes. So it's all the major dexes. They have over $70 billion of liquidity. And obviously not all the chains. They have over 30 chains that they've aggregated so far. So the ultimate goal, of course, is to connect every coin that is of relevancy. But they have
and, and how did they do the bridging? Like, did they have like their own technology? Did they leverage like an existing bridge
yeah,
technology?
through this router protocol. I mean, I also love router protocol. It's this routing technology. Through it's built on second. It's built on Fusion, and Fusion never really had you know, a real application for it to be used. And then when Change came out, they were able to truly leverage their technology. It's called FSN Fusion, and they're able to actually leverage their technology to be able to connect all these chains. And when you really use the app, and when you go from all these dexes and trying to bridge and go to layer twos, it is a mess. When you just go into their app and you can just go from literally one layer two to layer one, and you don't have to do any of it. It's all in the background, and it's so simple. I literally could buy 10 coins. I did it recently. Took me about 10 minutes, and that would have took me hours and hours going from layer one to layer two, going to this dex, going to this dex. It is just a mess. So being able to simplify the whole DeFi experience all into one application, I think, is truly groundbreaking. Yeah, and the founder is a true visionary, DJ, who's behind VeChain and Quantum, if anyone knows them. But yeah, this guy, their team is truly incredible, and their tokenomics are amazing, which is essential, of course. Amazing community as well. I think community is one of the most important things to have with the cryptocurrency. They have extremely strong crypto. They were kind of remind me of the early days of Luna.
Yeah,
Very strong
I love
community.
that community, man.
Really love it.
Yeah, yeah. I find that like the GigaBrain communities, they're not really like the development going on there isn't really as engaging. You know, if they're focused on anything but their project and the developments on their project, you know, like if you look at Saga and Celestia, they're just focused on what they're doing. They're not focusing on like what this protocol is doing, you know, what Europe is doing, what India is doing. Like they just focus on their own product, and I think people in general are better productive that way. So
That's a great point.
yeah, and like if you look at some of the developments across some of these NFT communities, like the Pudgy Penguins, like they're actually breaking into like Web 2, right? Or like, you know, things in person. You know, they signed a deal where They're going to be able to sell their merch across a few franchises here in America and some toy shops as well. And like, you know, it's sort of like, you get the toy, right, then you have a little QR code to a group, and then you're introduced to Pudgy Penguins. I think that's how people are going to be introduced to NFTs. It's probably going to have like some toy or some like merch element where you get the product and then you have a QR code, and then you join some Discord, and you see some like intro video on what the product is all about. And yeah, and I think infrastructure that's building those things out, that's what's going to survive, and everything else is just going to be a speck in the wind, in my opinion. Like anything that you want to do in this industry now, like it has to have a product fit, right? Even if it's just things like memes, and memes are now integrated into society, right? And we see it all the time, right? We see it all the time, even with markets. Like everyone's scared of Jerome Powell. Oh, Jerome Powell is going to do this. Jerome Powell is going to do that. And, people fail to see that, like, a super cycle might be starting. And again, the concept of the super cycle is it's not up only. A super cycle is more onboarding given bearish conditions. So you don't have as many crazy drawdowns. And, 2022, as crazy as it was, the drawdown in total market cap, for example, didn't go down as much as the prior market cycle, right? As far as percentage points goes. So even though the amount of wealth that was wiped out, like 2 trillion, basically when you compare that to the 2017 bubble, you basically had that wiped out by a factor of 2, right? But as far as percentage points, it was actually a bit more lenient. And I understand some things actually did go to zero, but it happens every market cycle. So as the market matures, eventually the drawdowns get less and less and less. And even with these NFTs, the blue chips, they survived. They didn't go down 90%. Like Bitcoin
A lot
actually.
of them are at all-time
Incredible.
highs, like even in USD, like they're at all-time highs in ETH and USD. Because I know a lot of people are like, "Oh, you're still down in USD though," but it's like, no, they're even up in USD. Like the Pudgy Penguins are at an all-time high in USD right now. Um, I don't know. I just thought that was cool. I think this might be a scorching hot take, but like I think NFTs are gonna be bigger than anything. Like they're gonna be the biggest catalyst for like mass adoption, like more than anything else in crypto. And I think they're gonna like not only outperform pretty much everything on the coin side of things. And I trade both, for the record. Like I started off trading coins and I still trade coins all the time, but I definitely do dabble in NFTs. And I feel like a lot of people on the DeFi side of it don't. Like there's very few people who like basically play both sides. Like there's not a lot of crossover. Like most people I talk to anecdotally are just like, oh, I only do DeFi. And then there's a lot of people who only do NFTs and they got introduced into crypto through NFTs, which is cool too. It's whatever. But knowing both is going to give you a huge edge next cycle. And I think right now is a great time to just learn the fundamentals, because there's going to be a lot of people who are learning the fundamentals next cycle, and like you're just going to be ahead of them if you know what you're doing and know how to play it. And and I think like, because a lot of people just don't want to stare at a chart, you know, and like hope it goes up, but like they can identify with whatever fucking project they bought. And like, you know, Wabi was talking about communities are the most important thing. Like it's really easy to have a community when everyone's rocking the same variant of a profile picture, and it's like people just like shit that they can identify with, and it's kind of like a driver's license to like make friends online or some shit with like-minded people, you know? And so it's just cool. Like I think that you shouldn't sleep on them because they're going to be a huge, huge, huge part of next cycle. And I do think we'll probably see some more like DeFi integration with NFTs, like Wabi was mentioned earlier too. That'll probably be cool because a lot of people are like oh, what's the utility? Like, what's the utility? And so maybe I'm sure a bunch of new things are going to come out next cycle. For like ways
I
that
agree with
I don't
that.
know.
I think that as Cheryl was saying, like it's hard to do both, right? Usually, like you're either really good at DeFi or even like Web3, cloud, decentralized cloud. Some people are really good at infrastructure, right? Or as you're saying, King, right? Like some people like really get lucky or get really successful on the AI narrative, and then vice versa. People are really successful at NFTs and not at DeFi, or at DeFi not NFTs. So it's really hard, but if you can kind of keep up, not necessarily invest in everything, but at least keep your eyes and try to educate yourself on what's going on in the space overall, I think you're better off as an investor, even if you can focus on just one narrative. And just to
That's
touch on
fair.
this idea of mass adoption, right? I think
And
you're on point on that, and because it's not just about PFPs, right? Like when we think NFTs, we jump to JPEGs, but there are massive well-financed AAA games that are coming up this year and next year,
Mhm.
and they're trying to compete with Fortnite, Call of Duties, World of Warcraft. And I know right now we've only seen the Axie Infinity and like the Play to Earn, like it's not really good, great
yeah,
games, but they're coming.
the model of sorry to cut you off, my bad. Um, the model of like GameFi, because GameFi is also going to be a huge narrative. I think it's pretty obvious. Um, but like I've said before, like it can't just be like, oh, like you farm a token like with extra steps, you know. Like I think the way it could actually work is like the game has to already be fun, and then if the game's fun, then people will play it, and then you can earn like whatever loot or in-game items, and then you could potentially sell those on like an NFT marketplace. That would be pretty cool, and that's kind of how I see it working. And because that way it's like people aren't just playing like the game doesn't just die when the token's done being farmed, you know. And also you've already seen with RuneScape, like since the early days of RuneScape, and then since like even Fortnite and shit, people like sell their accounts because they have a bunch of special items in it. Counter Strike, like it's established already that there's a market for this. And so like I think you're tripping if you don't think that someone's going to see that opportunity and build a marketplace, um build a marketplace where they can like monetize, you know, transaction
It's
fees
inevitable.
from it's literally inevitable. And the only reason it hasn't happened is because I still think with traditional gamers, NFTs are pretty taboo. But I also think that's going to change too with like they're kind of low key rebranding it as like digital collectibles. Like we saw it with the Reddit NFTs. I don't know if you saw those, but they basically psyoped Reddit into like liking NFTs. It was pretty funny because they were like, "Oh, we're launching these digital collectibles, right?" And like you can buy these digital collectibles and you can use them as your Reddit profile picture. And they just didn't really say too much else about it, but there were actually NFTs on Polygon. And so if you bought one and you actually wanted to sell it on OpenSea, you had to like make a MetaMask and do all that. But also if you could also just buy it, and you never had to do that. Like you could just keep it within your Reddit account, right? And I don't know, like it was pretty cool to see because it was like I mean, dude, they did like a 50x, like all of them. That was fun. Like literally $20 mint went to like a couple ETH in like a couple in like 2 or 3 weeks. And yeah, that was fun. But like besides the percentage gain, it was funny seeing all these people like on Reddit that have never done crypto anything. They're like, wait, why do we hate these? This is pretty cool. Like, I don't know. That just kind of like it was eye opening for me because I was like, damn, like this shit's probably gonna be really big once like the media stops just like calling it all a scam.
What's going on, Nicholas? How you doing, brother? Thank you for coming up.
Hi everyone. I want to ask you guys, do you think that this year will also be focused around layer one and layer twos? because I see a lot of these narrative plays around CK Tech or liquid staking. And if you read between the lines, this is just like a layer of convexity over a layer one, like if. I would like to hear your thoughts on that.
Can I spit on this? Because this is I love this topic. I
Yeah,
could
go
talk
ahead, go
for
ahead, bro.
hours on
Go
this
ahead.
topic. Yeah. Hey, thanks, Nicholas, for that question. So I think we need to establish a context before we really deep dive into that, right? So when Vitalik came with Ethereum, right, and he was doing like a round of presentation, right? One of the things that he brought as a concept was this idea of the blockchain trilemma, right? And not everybody agrees, but there's like a general consensus that it does guides you in your design for your blockchain, right? So you're trying to get three things out of your blockchain. You want it to be to scale, you want it to be decentralized, you want it to be secure, right? But from the blockchain trilemma, you can only get two out of three, right? So in the case of Bitcoin, for example, right, as you see, it's very secure, it's decentralized, but it doesn't scale, right? And Ethereum, some people will say it's less decentralized, but there's still more than phases on decentralization and security. And then, transaction is really slow and expensive. Now you have this generation of alt layer ones. The people don't maybe don't remember EOS was a big project that would say, hey, we can scale. We solved the blockchain trilemma. You had Zilliqa, more recently Solana, and now Aptos, Sui, what have you. So you have a lot of chains that are basically either saying they can scale, or they're saying they resolve the blockchain trilemma, or they're saying we're making scalability our priority, and then decentralization is going to suffer a little bit, but our users don't care. It's decentralized enough, right? So that's the context in which we're having this conversation, right? Now, if you agree that the blockchain trilemma is true, then a solution for Ethereum is to not worry about scalability on the main layer, but to actually provide a layer two. And it was great about layer twos, and I'm sure King can talk about it because he wrote an article on Fuel Labs. There's a bunch of projects as you mentioned, the ZK rollups, the zero knowledge proofs rollup, but also the optimistic rollups. And they leverage the security and decentralization of Ethereum, and then they can focus on scalability. And the great thing is, as an end user, if you don't necessarily need to know how those things work, but you get the benefit of a fast and cheap transaction, and then your transaction eventually, not right away, they get to be as safe as if you had made them directly on Ethereum. So it's one theory. Obviously, it's not the truth per se. Not everybody agrees with that. Solana probably doesn't agree with that, and Aptos and other chain don't agree with that. But it if most people in crypto would say, yeah, you have to make some trade-offs in your blockchain. And so one solution to resolve those trade-offs, because obviously average user doesn't care about decentralization, they just want cheap and fast transaction, is to actually have those layer two solutions.
Yeah, man, right on the money. I'm bullish. I'm bullish on what Fuel's gonna do. I'm insanely bullish on what they're gonna do, but that's a conversation for another time. Guys, I actually do have to start wrapping up right now. I do have a call in like 5 minutes. So if anyone wants to give any final thoughts, feel free to do so. Astro, I want to take the time to thank you
Sure.
for coming up, man. And for the listeners in the crowd, if you're new to these spaces, my name is Wabi, and I do these spaces pretty much every day here. So feel free to follow us here because Bitcoin, and all of our spaces uploads go up onto our YouTube 5 to 10 minutes after the space is concluded. We'll be back tomorrow with Payne and Dow Chemist. Dow, what's a good time for you for tomorrow, man? Just that I have you on here right now, and like we can set that up now. What would be a good time for you? Do you think like 7 p.m. or do you want to do it
Yeah,
early? Do you want to do
around
it
that time works for me, man. It's perfect.
7? We can also do 2 p.m. if you want to do it a bit earlier. So
Nah, for me, the evening works out. I get busy
okay,
in during the
okay,
day, so yeah. And
okay,
this was a great
perfect.
conversation, by the way. So
Yeah, we'll
following
follow it
you
up.
guys.
We'll follow it up tomorrow. We'll try to do like a community roundtable space. I really enjoy those. So we'll try to get a few people hopped on. But yeah. With that being said, I want to thank you guys for coming through. I don't think the spaces invite worked at all. I know I tried doing like a few images and stuff, but I think I'm just gonna save the images for after the space because like I saw that like when you know how you click set reminder, like that thing wasn't working. It was probably on my end, but like I didn't get anything that people were notified or anything like that. So trying to do something cool, right? Like some aesthetics. I think aesthetics really work. And I find them to be cool. So Astro, I want to take the time for coming on here, man, and introducing yourself to the community. Feel free to come on anytime you
Sure
see us go
thing. Yeah.
live. And
Yeah,
yeah, if you
I have a lot more to go into my process of everything. I'd love to, talk about it. But it was a
okay.
pleasure being on. What
Yeah, no
fun, guys.
problem, man. No problem, brother. No problem. I tend to do these spaces either at 7 p.m. or a little bit early, a little bit later, depending on some time zone differences or just some scheduling conflicts. But with that being said, I'm gonna wrap up here. Dow, any final thoughts, brother?
Hey, follow all the speakers, man. There are a lot of things to say, and I'm definitely looking forward to hear more from Astro, man. I'll follow you, and I'm looking at your tweets right now, so I might go
Cheers,
into
man.
me.
All right, Payne, any final thoughts?
Not really, man. I think I said my piece. Everyone have a good one.
All right, for sure, man. All right, thank you guys so much. I'll see you tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern time. Take care, and God bless you.
Take care. God bless.
The trading current is just math. It's just math. It has a 95.45% hit rate when we deviate outside of CP2 and CN2. All you had to do is recognize that 95% of the time when we get over here, under this blue line, we get some sort of mean reversion. So let's just assume you long right here. 95 out of 100 times, when I buy this, I'm gonna get some sort of bounce. It's just math. Look what would have happened as we move up. Look at the bounce that came after. And now look where we are. If you had just blindly followed the current, you take all emotions out of it, and you say, I'm going to trust the statisticians, you would have bought Dow Jones somewhere down here under 30,000. Depending on how you want to measure it from absolute top to bottom, 20% move. We also have multi-time frame alerts. You don't even have to be at your computer on TradingView. You can ping your phone. Now, the current has some really awesome features, and I would urge you guys to join our Discord to get access to it. We give it away for free as a tool to the community. It's just math. There's really no need to overcomplicate things, not even in the slightest.